Hello, and welcome to the channel once again. If you're new here, then you can expect me to ramble on incoherently. No, I'm kidding. But essentially what I do is I watch a movie and I come and I sit down and I just talk about it. I don't have a script, I don't do jump cuts, I just ramble. So I'm wanting it to be as natural as I can possibly be. That being said, if you're returning, welcome back. If you're not, cool. Give me a chance. It'll be fun. Maybe not. Anyway, what am I watching today? I'm watching Nowhere, which is a 2023 Netflix film. Yeah, it's a survival story. So it's not the usual kind of film that I do. But it falls into the general category of what I like to call dark cinema, which is basically any movie that puts the character in an unpleasant, potentially terrifying position where their life is at risk, etc. 90% of the time, that's horror movies, slasher movies, horror sci-fi, monster movies, that kind of stuff. But sometimes I'll throw in an oddball like this, a little survival film. Anyway. That's neither here or there. We should probably just begin. So, spoiler alert, you know the drill. If you know what a spoiler is, you know that I will be spoiling the film in this next little section. So, skip ahead to the timestamp that says thoughts in it, and you can avoid the spoilers. Anyway, let's get into it. So, we have Mia and Nico, a lovely couple from a country that seems to be either in the middle of a war or a revolution or a hostile takeover or a coup or something like that. Either way, it's not a pleasant place to be. So they are part of a group of people who are essentially going to be smuggled out of the country via shipping containers. So cool. Fun fact, Mia is pregnant. So no better time to leave than now, right? Anyway. They get to the shipping docks and they load up in a container, and a whole bunch of people rush in, and the people who are organizing this thing are like, no, take some of these people out. We can't, that's too many in one container. I guess they got to abide by like the weight or something, so it's not suspicious. I'm not sure. But anyway, they pull a bunch of people off, and one of those people that they pull off is Nico. So Mia and Nico, right at the beginning, as soon as they get to the containers, are separated. Nico is sent into a second container, so she makes a mental note. Okay, container 107, that's where he is. When we land at the port, wherever we're going, that's where he'll be. Perfect, great plan. So they head out. They talk on the phone. They have cell phones. They have a little supply backpack of, like, you know, enough food to get them to where they're going for a couple of days trip or whatever it is. Some standard stuff to survive if needed. There's like a couple glow sticks, you know, that kind of stuff, a Swiss Army knife, whatever. Very basic stuff, the bare necessities to get you through that darkened cargo container. They've also drilled holes in it. Essentially, they have like an industrial drill that can go through metal inside the container. So there are little holes so that they can get oxygen. This is good. Obviously, they're not too obvious because they aren't spotted initially, but anyway. Lo and behold, the truck pulling them gets stopped at a check stop, and at this check stop, an officer comes out, stops the driver, says, "What are you hauling?" He says, "Oh, there's not much. Are you in a rush?" He's like, No, I just, I get in trouble if I don't get there on time." He's like, "Yeah, we won't take too much of your time. We need to look in the back." They open it up. Somewhat luckily for them, they have thought ahead of this. So I guess whoever is helping smuggle these people out of this country has put up like a fake back wall of the container. So behind all the pallets, there's a wall with an open space behind that wall for the people to hide in case the truck is checked. So that's pretty clever. However, our officer is more clever than that. So he walks into the trailer, looks around. All right, doesn't seem to be an issue, but he's thinking for a sec. He's like, this is I don't know what it is. I'm just going to use an example. This is a 40-foot container, but it doesn't feel like 40 foot in here. So he steps out. He tells his soldiers to get in there and to shoot out the sides of the wall a bullet to show where the end is. And he goes out on the outside and they shoot, sure enough, and The bullets come out here, but the back of the trailer is whatever. The bullets come out here, but the back of the trailer is there. So they've been found. Commander comes back in. He says, listen, to the people behind the wall. Listen, guys, I don't want to have to get my soldiers to shoot, so you can come out now and we can avoid that whole unpleasantry there. Does a countdown from 3, 2, 1. On 1, the thing slides open and a woman walks out kind of terrified. He looks at her and says, good for you. Pulls out a pistol, shoots her right in the head. At that shot, Mia quickly jumps up onto a crate to hide and is like trying to pull people up when they open fire and pretty much gun down the entirety of that, except for Mia, who is on top of that crate, thankfully. So they slide the door open and they see a child. All her friends and family are dead around her, and she's this little kid. I don't remember if it's a boy or a girl, but it doesn't really matter. They're traumatized. They're like, shaking, and they cut to Mia on top of the crate, just closing her eyes, like, oh god, and then you hear a bang. So obviously they dispatch the child, and they seal it up, and she goes. Fun. She frantically, as soon as the truck starts moving in away from the check stop, she frantically calls Nico, like, to warn him, like, they're checking trucks, you have to hide, get up somewhere so they can't find you, etc. Can't get through to him, so she's stressing out hardcore this whole time. That's not great. Anyway, she gets to the port, the crane, she can feel it lifting her and putting her on the container or whatever, still can't get through to her husband. She's the only one in the container. Cut to later. We are on the ship now, we're out at sea, and she wakes up to a storm. So there's waves going, the ship's, going all crazy. The people on the ship, like the workers, are opening up these cargo containers to get these people out so they can go inside the ship for safety whatsoever. Or whatever, whatsoever. Or whatever. So obviously they're working with the people who are smuggling them out, which makes sense. Anyway, lo and behold, they're going container by container, but just before they get to Mia's container, they know she's in there, and they're like, hang on, we'll get there. Wave hits, and a bunch of containers go overboard, including the one that Mia is in. So she's knocked out, essentially. Comes to later. There's water inside the container because, if you remember, there are bullet holes, not to mention drill holes for air that were in there, so this container's leaking. Not great. She comes to, she's not like severely injured or anything, so that's great. And she hears screaming and looks outside, and she sees container 107, which, if you recall, is the one that she memorized. Like, okay, Nico's going to be in that container. Hear people screaming, and it's going under. And she's freaking out, frantically trying to call him. It's not going through. Container goes underwater, screaming stops. She thinks the worst right away. Clearly, that's not... yeah, anyway. Whatever. So, that's fun. She assumes her husband's dead. She's not doing great. She does eventually get a call, and lo and behold, it is her husband who had survived. And he says, listen, I got stuck at port. I'm going to be going on the next container ship. It's going to the same location. I will meet you when we're there. And she says, no, you don't understand. Am I going to sneeze? We'll mute that part. Anyway, so yes, she is trying to explain to her husband, like, dude, I fell off. I'm not on the boat. I'm in the middle of the ocean, floating in a container. I thought you died. I saw what I thought was your container going under, etc. He's like, what? Are you serious? She's like, yes. Why would I lie about that? Anyway, he says, okay. He's thinking about it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to come get you. I'm going to come get you. I promise. I swear I'm going to get you. And she's like, okay. So there's a little bit of... The phone cuts out, but, I mean, she talked to her husband. He's okay. She's like, okay, well, I gotta figure this out now. I'm in the middle of the sea. It might be days before they come and get me. Let's see what we have. She starts opening up containers. Opens up the first one, Tupperware. Okay, that's useless. Opens up the next one. widescreen TVs. Okay, that's useless. Opens up the next one, cat food. She's like, great. Opens up the next one. There's booze in it. Okay, that's not useful. So whatever, that's great. She eventually does use her little supply pack. There's duct tape in it, so she patches up the holes the best she can. Eventually she comes to the idea of taking the Tupperware, the rubber seal off of it, and using that to plug the holes in the container, which does a better job of the duct tape than the duct tape. You put the two together, boom, you got a pretty good seal. It's still coming through, but not like a faucet. It's just like trickling. So she also has, I think it's like a vacuum hose that she took out of another one of the crates, and she's using it to like use Tupperware to bail water outside through a hole. So she's got a little bit of a plan, essentially. Anyway, starts taking inventory of her supplies and everything, and shit, that's when Nico calls. Okay, whatever. Anyway, she also starts going into labor. She has her first contraction, and she's like, oh my god, not the time, kid. Can you just hang 10 for a little bit? And it stops temporarily. But eventually she does give birth to the baby inside the container. So that's fun. It's a live birth in water, so I mean that's essentially considered okay for a baby, I think, right? I don't know. It's salt water though. I don't know how great that is, but I don't know anything about that stuff. So maybe that's phenomenal. Either way, water birth is a thing, so I mean that's about as good as it could be under the circumstance, right? I guess she's thinking ahead. She puts the placenta in a Tupperware container, I guess for later use. So that's fun. She hasn't really eaten much. She finished like the last tiny bit of the one sandwich that was in her supplies backpack or whatever. And she's not producing milk, so she cannot feed the baby. She needs sustenance or nutrients or whatever the hell you need for making milk. You got to eat, obviously, to get the energy to make it or whatever. So she dips into the cat food. You got to do what you got to do, right? And lo and behold, eventually she is able to make milk and able to feed the baby. That's great. Cool. Then what happens? She has a nightmare or something of like the crate falling. The one that's... Okay, so there is a pallet that's strapped to the floor, which is now the ceiling because it flipped. And she had a dream of it, the straps breaking and it falling, and a bunch of rubber duckies falling out, but for whatever reason it makes the container sink, so she wakes up. Okay, well that's a dream, thankfully. So that's good. Shit. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention when the baby was born, it had its intestines, I almost said. Not intestines. Its umbilical cord around its neck, and she was able to revive it, and everything was good. But that was a scare. So it's just one thing after another for this poor woman and her baby. She eventually gets the idea to take the industrial drill that did the air holes or whatever, and to drill holes along the roof so that she can actually get outside of the container. Because yes, there are air holes and whatnot, but the air was probably getting stale at this point. Sunlight would be nice. I mean, you got a little bit of light from the holes and you got some glow sticks, but that's not the healthiest thing in the world. Although, yeah, I don't really care about light myself, but I know a lot of people need that for like mental stability or whatever. But let's put it this way. I've lived in this and my previous apartment for a combined total of probably like 15 years, maybe more. I've never once changed a main light bulb. Yeah. So, although to be fair, I have a big balcony that like sunlight comes in, so whatever, what have you. But I don't... But she's normal, unlike me, so, you know, light. It's good for people, whatever. Oh, Lord. Anyway. Needless to say, eventually the drill runs out of batteries because, let's be real, it's going to. It's not going to power through a container wall, you know, and not lose energy. So she uses her little pocket knife to start cutting through the metal, which it's doing very slowly, but like it's a lot of work. Even her hands getting all cut up doing it, but she almost gets all three sides cut and the blade breaks. So she's like, fuck. Anyway, she gets an idea to she ended up getting the pallet strapped to the floor ceiling off, and lo and behold, more Tupperware. Great, perfect. Anyway, so she ends up doing that. She ends up using the strap, hooking it onto the opening that she made, and pulling it down, and basically bending the metal so that she can get out. So it's not completely removed, but it's like you can get out of it. So that's cool. She gets out on top, and she's pretty ecstatic. So now she's thinking, okay, I have access to the outside world. She looks, and holy crap, there's a fish. Okay, this is a good thing. Fish means food. If I can maintain this, okay, we got to make a spear or something, right? So she does. She grabs a piece of metal and puts the corkscrew on the end of it and tries to make a spear, and is completely not good at it. So, you know, for someone who's never thrown a spear in their life, they're not going to be good at it right away. But it's tied to a rope so you can reel it in or whatever, but she's not having luck. Eventually, she ends up breaking open some TVs, I guess, and using the wires to make a fishing net, which, lo and behold, is much more successful. She ends up catching a fish by using some cat food in the water, which, you know, that makes sense, right? Fish is more food, so you use one meal to lure in a fish, which is going to be like 4 meals. So there you go. Anyway, catches a fish, and then she gets clever. So Tupperware, what are you going to do with that, right? Well, she keeps a supply of live fish. So she catches a ton of fish, puts live ones in Tupperware with seawater, and you have a live source of food that you can access whenever you want. That is really clever. Way to use your noggin. Anyway, she finally gets another call from her husband, who basically tells her, listen, I'm not going to be able to rescue you. And of course she's like, what? And he says, yeah, so I'm on another boat, and I was seen, and I tried to run, and they shot me, and I got away, but I'm bleeding out. And she's like, oh, fuck. And he's apologizing. He's like, I'm so sorry that I can't come get you. I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you, etc., etc. And she's like, you've always been here for us. And then, you know, like, inside type moment. And he catches that, and he's like, us? She's like, oh, yeah, by the way, kid's born. He's like, oh my god. So there's a nice little moment where he gets to talk on the phone to his child. Child gets to hear his voice, I guess, before he passes away. Phone cuts out. Bittersweet, but at least he got to talk to his kid. So that's something. Anyway. One day she sees an airplane. She tries to signal it with a piece of metal, so she quickly runs down to get like a mirror or something to flash, and as she's climbing out, she's rushing, and she slices her thigh on the ripped metal that she cut through, which clearly is gonna hurt a lot, so she screams, and it's a passenger jet anyway. Chances are they wouldn't have seen her. Maybe they would, I don't know. But regardless, she's sliced open, so she she takes one of those bottles of alcohol. See, everything has a use, right? Douses it on it to clean it, and makes a suture out of thread and a sharp thing, and seals herself up, and that's pleasant. Yeah. Anyway, eventually by day 26, the container is taken in water faster than she can get it out. She was slowly keeping it, you know, manageable, but more was coming in by a tiny amount than she could get out, and at this point it's become unmanageable. So she's fastened like a little raft out of pieces of pallet and like Tupperware, go figure, right? That floats, so that's perfect. Big enough for the baby, and a little crate lined with like hoodies that she got out of a crate on it, and she's got a rope, and she ties it to herself, or she, you know, to tie herself to it. And as the thing sinks, she's like, shit, I gotta act fast. There are supplies down there that I can still use, you know, whether it be the fish in the Tupperware or the secret Snickers bar that her husband gave her, by the way. That's like a thing. Anyway, she's trying to get the stuff, and she gets caught on like some strapping from the pallet that was strapped on there, and it's going under and under, and she finally uses her little knife, the broken one, to cut through it, and swims up and just barely makes it out. And she gets to the surface. She's like, oh shit, where's the raft? That's not great. Luckily, there's a friendly whale that came by and decided to use its little spout thing to spray the baby and wake it up and make it cry, so that she is alerted to its coordinates and she can swim to the baby. Reunited at last. Unfortunately, at this point, she's pretty freaking exhausted. again, 26 days of minimal food, trying to take care of a baby yet on top of that. So half of your nutrients are going to milk to feed the baby. So, I mean, shit, son. She's tired. I don't know how many days she's on the raft. I'm going to say 1 or 2. Anyway, either way, whether it's 1 or 2, it's nightfall at this point where she finally starts getting weak. Seagulls start going above them. I guess they're looking down as like, okay, this will be food soon. Excellent, right? Or maybe they're just checking out saying, what the hell is this? But seagulls mean you're near land, right? So, woohoo! Unfortunately, by the time a boat does see this and head over, they find the baby on the boat, and the mother, Mia, is nowhere to be seen. And they pull the baby up and they check in, make sure it's okay. And yeah, the baby's fine. And they notice a rope tied to the raft. And they start pulling the rope up, and lo and behold, Mia is still tied to it, basically dead. She drowned, essentially. They pull her out and they start doing CPR on her, and it's not working. And the husband goes and radios, Mayday, Mayday, whatever. And I guess the wife looks at the baby as she's about to give up and looks back like, no, I gotta keep going. And she keeps going, and lo and behold, Mia coughs and pukes up water, or whatever you gotta do, and is reunited with the baby. And turns out that she drifted to just off the coast of Ireland, so much better place to be than whatever war-torn country she came from, right? So that's pretty good. A politically, for the most part, stable. You can argue any country's politics are not exactly stable, but from what I know, Ireland's is. If anyone Irish is watching and wishes to correct me on that, feel free. But from what I understand, it's pretty stable there. Yeah, so good on her. Welcome to Ireland. All's well that ends well. A little bittersweet. Nico didn't make it, but Mia and her baby made it. And they're being taken to the mainland, and that's when the credits roll. So, what did I think? Well, this is a survival film, so I can't rate it the same way I would with something action-packed with like a giant monster or a serial killer or a ghost or witch or whatever the hell you want to say, zombies. It's a lot slower paced because of the type of movie that it is. So keeping that in mind, how does it compare to other survival films that I've seen? Well, it's not quite Castaway good. I genuinely do like Castaway. But it's still pretty competent. Like the things that she did while she was in the container to keep herself alive, the things that she made, etc., how she dealt with injuries, for the most part, somewhat realistic from what I would imagine someone would think of doing based on the materials that she had in that container. Obviously, like the fishing net, for example, she didn't think of that right away, but after, several days, I guess it clicked in her head, and she was like, okay, let's make a net. So, that's something that probably would happen. Especially when you have a child to look after, you're going to be thinking like nonstop, how can I make the best of this situation for my child? So that was realistic. It was dubbed over. I don't know what language it is. I think it's Spanish, but I could be wrong. But I mean, the dubbing was fine. Dubbing doesn't usually bother me. I didn't see if there was a subtitled version or not. I probably would have rather watched the subtitled one, but dubbing is fine. So that was okay. Acting, from what I can tell, is fine too. The whole premise of being stuck in a container out in the ocean full of holes that's slowly sinking while you're pregnant and then give birth to a baby and also have to figure out how to get enough nutrients to feed the baby, all that combined, that would be stressful as hell. And that's why I figured, you know what, I'm going to review this one anyway. So, again, not like my normal type films that I do, but it doesn't matter. We're doing it anyway. We did Thirst and we did Bouquet or whatever, and those are kind of not your standard films either. So, once in a while, we got to mix it up, right? So anyway, that doesn't matter at all. Nobody gives a shit about that. So, back on track. When it boils down to it, did I like this movie? Yeah, for the most part. Like, again, you got to be in the mindset and the mood to watch a slower burn type, not action-packed so much. Continuously stressful, in the sense of, you could eventually die or whatever, but like, not, oh my god, there's a thing, or oh my god, someone's got a knife, you know what I mean? So, if you're into these kind of movies, where it's sort of just like your mind against the elements or your environment to figure out how to make yourself survive, it's pretty solid and pretty competent. If you're not into that, you're probably not going to like it, because, yeah, a lot slower pace than your standard horror movie, obviously. Would I recommend watching it? I would say sure. Again, it's very dependent on if you like that kind of movie or not. If for the most part you're indifferent, then you might enjoy this one anyway, because it is past that threshold of still being pretty good for the genre. So take that for what it is. Now, let's get to the greasy, nitty-gritty, whatever you want to call it, of it. The rating, which I will give. Again, I'm rating this based on what kind of a movie it is. So not quite a Castaway level. What other one? Yeah, I did Thirst before. It's like a TV movie with Lacey Chabert, and that one was this was better than that. So I don't remember what I rated that one, so hopefully this rating is higher than that. It has to be, though, because I don't think I'm gonna put it in the 6s. Let's go 6.2. 6.225. There we go. That's what we're doing. That's what Nowhere gets. Again, based strictly on what kind of a film it is and how it compares to films of that genre. So this might rate higher than a movie that I like more, but, you know, that's just whatever. That's the official rating, whether it makes sense or not, and whether I agree with it later or not, that's the rating. Boom. So check it out or don't, based on if you like this kind of movie. If you do like this movie, it's worth a watch. That's all I got, really. I mean, you can only go on so long about a survival movie, right? So, a single location survival movie. Let me make that clear. Of this nature. When things aren't trying to kill you, it's just the environment. Anyway, whatever. I'm rambling. That's the end of the video. We will cut it here, and next week we will be doing... What am I doing next week? Next week is episode 117. So, we're going to watch something that's related to that. Take a wild guess what it is. Use AI if you want to help. That's your hint. Okay, bye.